I know he's not going to do it anymore. I guess I'll celebrate.
So,
So what?
it's running.
Hello there. We're running. Oh, first we got to go live. Now we're running on all channels. Hello, welcome to the Mercy Weekly Meeting, being held every Wednesday here at 1745 Capitol Street Northeast in beautiful downtown Salem. It goes from 7 p.m. Until we get tired of brambling and doing these other things here. And this is 10/23/13. Funny it didn't show up there. Okay. So, welcome to it, folks. Hey, my name is Perry, and along with PK, we'll be feeding you news and information on the medical cannabis issue as we get the information here and there and everywhere that we can get it. The purpose of our weekly meeting is to network folks to resources depending on their issues. If folks are here to get their card, we try to network them to information to educate their doctor, get their doctor to sign. Also, we want to try to help folks to find a grower before they try to register with state, before they apply, so they don't have to do a change. And of course, if their doctor isn't willing to sign for them, we let them know what needs to be done to go to one of the clinics, one of the specialists, to get their card, get their paperwork signed so they can get their card. We have a doctor that comes into town here in Salem once a month, organized by Mercy. And if folks want to utilize that resource, then please get your records to us, down here to us at 1745 Capitol Street Northeast. Oh, good. And sure. The folks here will vet the records and make sure they're good enough to go on to the specialist, whether you use our specialist or if the time frame of when the doctor's coming into town doesn't work for you, we'll let you know about all the other clinics that are available, not just here in Salem, but all over Oregon. So, helping the folks to get their card, first and foremost, and then, of course, once they got their card, what now? There aren't any dispensaries yet in Oregon. In theory, they'll be coming online, be available, at least the process is going to start March 1st, 2014. And then that will be another option for folks, especially the ones that just got their card. And even if you planted a seed or a seedling, a starter plant today, it'd still be 3 months before you'd see any medicine from it. So what are folks supposed to do in that time frame? Particularly folks that are terminal, that need that, don't have 3 months as it is. So helping networking folks to medicine now is one of the things we do here at Mercy all the time. If you need medicine, contact us here at Mercy, 1745 Capitol Street Northeast. We're open Monday through Friday, noon to 6. And you can also reach us by phone, 503-363-4588. And of course, that's just a short-term solution. In the long term, you're going to want to, get someone to grow for you, or get growing yourself. Two options patients have with the Oregon system. So come on down and chat with us here at Mercy, and we'll talk about all the parameters and specifics about what it takes to get growing yourself, and what you should do, best process, where to go, how to find a good grower to take care of you. These are often done in conjunction with networking folks to medicine in the short term. Of course, yeah, we have.
And you talking about the HB 3460 rules that we went to?
Yeah.
Okay. The committee thing. I'm reading out of the Cannabis Connection a little bit about it.
Yeah, the dispensaries such as they are will be coming online, be official on March 1st, 2014. It's not clear yet if that's going to be the go date for people applying and starting the process, or if folks will be able to actually open on March 15 in 2014 and make themselves available. There's still some of the parameters that need to be worked out. We still don't know what the fees are going to be, for example. We still don't know what the testing requirements are. And those are two things that are going to affect the price, which is a big factor in whether or not this is going to work.
Well, they did mention the fees of other states that had dispensaries when we were there. It went up many different prices were said. And for us, they were talking about $1,000 initiation fee and then a $5,000 permit or whatever, right?
Yeah, they some the states that have these type of facilities, the dispensaries, have a fee to apply, and then if it's accepted, there's a yearly licensing fee on top of that. And there was some research done, and the various other programs were discussed. I don't know if we actually heard an average number. We heard some numbers. I think we heard some highs being like, Massachusetts, for example, has a $50,000 licensing fee for theirs. And I don't have the exact numbers to memory here. Folks can view the taping that we did of the meeting and see if you can glean some of the numbers out of that. There was a proposal to set the fees at $1,000 to apply and $5,000 to actually gain your licensing. That sounds like a per annum fee also. So we'll certainly keep folks posted on what the numbers are and what, if anything, Joe and Jane Citizen can do to try to affect them. This discussion took place at the Rules Advisory Committee, or RAC, meeting organized by the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, basically under its auspices, although the committee was formed under, it reports to the governor, and you can hear a number of things that was specified in there. Another point of discussion was the funding of the program, making sure that that was going to be paid for, and then working backwards from that for the fees. A critical element, of course, would be on how many facilities are expected to open up. Right now, they're looking at a $800,000 biennium expense for running the program. That's figuring that you have four full-time inspectors, some other factors like that. Given that, and Then taking, say that there was one number of that there's currently 100 places operating as dispensaries currently in Oregon. So using that as a good number to put up against the $400,000 a year, I think that would come out to say 400 a year. I'm not sure. We'll get the math majors out to check that. So hopefully all these elements will come together and we'll end up with a nice, fair, workable set of fees for applying and maintaining your licensing with the state of Oregon to operate what's now being referred to as the Patient Resource Facilities, or PERFs. You may also hear them referred to as medical marijuana facilities, or MMFs, and of course the old acronym about dispensaries, although these will be run in a different, slightly different way in terms of the accounting that's being done, as it's not dispensing so much as growers are bringing their excess there and being reimbursed for them. And so it's a matter of reimbursement going down the line. And we hope that's the fairness and equity of that program, of that process, will be recognized, and we'll be allowed to implement that, and folks will have an option as far as getting medicine in the short term, whether they just got with the program, or they had a crop failure, or they just need to try some different medicine. A lot of things that needed to be explained to the committee as to what are the circumstances whereby folks are going to be seeking out these facilities and trying to utilize them. And so doing is we need to, one thing that was suggested was that a patient can only go to one facility, which is ridiculous. They're also trying to work in ways to do some accounting of it. One legislator mentioned a concern that patients would be able to go to a number of facilities, each getting the maximum allowable amount there, and in the process end up over their limits and all. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, there's the issue of testing and how much, to what degree, making sure that it's being done, having certified places, what are we testing for, things like that. Part of the discussion, and when it's over, then we'll be able to say more about how much it's going to cost to participate in this part of the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. That is the Patient Resource Facility, where cardholders with excess will be able to bring that excess medicine, or clones, baby plants that you need. You've over your limit on those. They've grown up too much there. Take them to the facility and have them network to somebody who needs the excess there. Also coming online January 1st, 2014, PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is a condition that's been added to the program. And starting January 1st, 2014, doctors will be able to sign for folks to indicate on their form that this is the condition that they're qualified for. So that's the first three issues: helping folks to get their cards, finding medicine now in the short term, getting a grower, or getting to grow yourself. All of which are components of getting your card, of course. Also, there's forms of medicating. That's something that certainly involved with getting your card. We educate doctors all the time, or educate potential patients to educate their doctors that there's other methods rather than smoking. We've had more than one report of a doctor not aware of vaporizing, not aware of being able to make teas or tinctures, oils, not to be able to, you can make butter, consume the cannabis in a number of ways, alternative to smoking. When we do so, we've had a pretty good return or good rate of doctors signing for patients once they've been properly educated as to the facts about medical cannabis, not just in general, but specifically here in Oregon. So a lot of information here at the Mercy Center on best ways to medicate, how to make medibles, how to make oils, as we said before, teas, tinctures, vaporizers, where to get them, how does it work, what's the best one for your situation, where to get them. Also the traditional smoking methods, the water pipes or bongs as they're also referred to. Pipes and traditional rolling papers, things of that nature. Also changes, whether you're making a change or there's a change to the program, like the addition of the patient resource facilities, aka dispensaries, the new condition that's being added to the program, how does one get a condition added, and some other issues that folks have, certainly. What about legalization? Can't we get that here and just make it medical for everybody? And what about the federal level? What's going to happen with that? How about Washington? What about Colorado? Can we go to Washington and get medicine then once it becomes online? A lot of what about your work? What about traveling? All kinds of things are affecting the medical cannabis community, and that's what we here at Mercy are trying to do, to network folks on the issues. So give us a call at 503-363-4588 with your medical cannabis issue. Indeed, whether it's Oregon, it's one of the other states here in America, or wherever it is around the world, let us know, and we'll certainly, if we don't have the information at hand, put it together and get it back to you. Please visit our website, mercycenters.org, which is our repository for information as we do the research. News and information on cannabis in its various forms, as the laws unfolding in various parts around the world. Interesting news stories, of course. This one here, as I've said many times, cannabis prohibition is a kitten-eating reptile. Well, here, this story, we have an example of it is at very least corrupting little kitties, in addition to the other harms that it's doing. It was bad enough when the pot war was going to the dogs, but now it's going to the cats, and they're being corrupted and involved in this war. And if you don't care about the kids, then maybe you're one of the cat people, and you will care about the war on kitties being included here with the pot war. And the story which brings us all to light here is cannabis cat on drugs run collared at Moldavian jail. Guards at the prison in the Moldavian village of Prunsil have pounced on a cat that was being used to traffic bags of cannabis tied around its neck. Suspicions were raised after the small gray and white creature was spotted regularly nipping in and out of the jail through a hole in the fence. Its oversized decorative collar turned out to contain drugs, and investigations are underway to sniff out its trainer. A video of the cat being searched was posted by the Moldavian Justice Ministry, and folks can catch a link to that video through our website at mercycenters.org. Also, a cat was recently used to smuggle mobile phones into a Russian jail. Guards caught the cat as it was climbing a fence in the jail in Sketivar in June. the Moscow Times reported at the time, adding a photo of the creature being held by the scruff of its neck, the phones and chargers taped to its body. Aww. This is just one of several attempts discovered in recent years with cats at other jails being used to deliver heroin, the paper noted. Also on this page, if you follow the links, you'll see this story here. Cat arrested at Brazil prison. That's an amusing one. I wonder if they did a lineup on it here to identify it. That's the one. Right there.
It has the eyes and the stripes.
So there's a yet another example of how silly the war is becoming. Other news headlines: Supreme Court refuses to review DEA's denial of petition that sought to reclassify cannabis. This is the ongoing case of reclassifying cannabis from Schedule 1, which is for substances that have no medical value, to a Schedule 2, and which is a schedule which contains things like cocaine, heroin, and things like that. Some things that doctors can prescribe to folks, like opiates, opioids, things of that nature. Back in 1988, the DEA's own judge, Judge Young, ruled that cannabis should be moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. Ever since then, the DEA has been refusing to obey the judge's order. And now the Supreme Court has backed the DEA's refusal to honor the court order there to allow cannabis to move from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. Also, in Texas, nearly 60% of voters support legalizing marijuana like alcohol. Also here, New York, study: marijuana less likely to elevate vehicle crash risk as compared to other substances. This report out of Vancouver, BC, Canada. A study: illicit drugs are cheaper and more prevalent despite increased legal sanctions. So yeah, I mean, the war on cannabis has made it the most popular thing on pretty much this whole planet. So end the war and you'll probably take away its popularity there. In California, also, 60% of likely voters back legalizing marijuana. Hopefully no surprise there. Also, California, governor signs Industrial Hemp Farming Act. Let's follow up on that and see what the specifics are. We expect more and more states to try to implement their industrial hemp laws or to pass industrial hemp laws, with the recent announcement by the U.S. Department of Justice that they're going to honor states' laws concerning cannabis, aka marijuana. Now back to our story. Democratic Governor Jerry Brown last week signed legislation, Senate Bill 566, the California Industrial Hemp Farming Act, into law. The measure reclassifies varieties of cannabis containing minute or less than 1% quantities of THC, the plant's primary psychoactive compound, as a fiber crop, and enacts provisions related to the regulation of the plant's commercial production. However, the measure stipulates that hemp cultivation shall not take place in California until such activity is also authorized under federal law. So darn it, they did not exclude that provision like Vermont has done. Vermont passed a hemp bill or is working on one, and in theirs they don't require federal approval or a change in the federal law. Unfortunately, federal law makes no distinction between industrial hemp and despite the fact that hemp is genetically different from marijuana and distinguished by its use in chemical makeup. Federal legislation, that is the Industrial Hemp Farming Act of 2013, which is to amend the Controlled Substances Act to exclude industrial hemp from the definition of marijuana, is currently pending in the U.S. Senate and in the U.S. House of Representatives. So, folks, contact your U.S. Congress critters and get on them to pass the Industrial Hemp Farming Act of 2013. The United States remains the only developed nation that fails to cultivate industrial hemp as an economic crop.
Our forefathers are rolling in their grave.
Absolutely. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. The U.S. market for hemp-based product is a highly dedicated and growing demand base, as indicated by the recent U.S. market and import data for hemp products and ingredients, as well as market trends for some natural foods and body care products. Given the existence of these small-scale but profitable niche markets for a wide array of industrial and consumer products, commercial hemp industry in the United States could provide opportunities as an economically viable alternative crop for some U.S. growers. Earlier this year, lawmakers in Colorado and Vermont enacted laws permitting the statewide production of industrial hemp. Unlike California's new law, neither Colorado nor Vermont require state licensed farmers to also seek federal authorization before they can legally engage in hemp cultivation. I made inquiries and I was informed that Oregon's industrial hemp law does not have a requirement that you get federal licensing, nor does it say that we have to wait till the federal law changes. So, in theory, farmers could plant and harvest their industrial hemp here in Oregon. With the recent statement by the Justice Department to respect the state's laws concerning cannabis, there's a hope that we can see this happen. We can see the hemp crop planted and harvested here in Oregon, not just in the upcoming years, but for future generations. So go Colorado and Vermont. Marijuana plant seizures, as reported by the DEA, declined to the lowest levels in nearly a decade. This is because the DEA, and yet the number of busts that the DEA is doing continues to climb. The reason for this, also another thing that's going on, is there's more forfeitures, greater number and dollar value forfeitures by the DEA in this same time. This is because the DEA is focusing on medical cannabis or marijuana people, and in some cases they have 6 plants, some cases they have 1 plant, some cases they don't have any plants at all, but they're still getting these SWAT team like raids. They're rounding up anything they can to pile on charges. If these folks that have no marijuana plants and are still getting charged with drug dealing happen to have a gun on the premises, that's added to their charges. If there's any children on the premises, that's added to the charges. And so the seizures are going down, but the number of busts and the amount of forfeiture dollars is going up at the same time, because the DEA is focusing on medical cannabis people or focusing on activists and seizing plants or preventing cannabis from getting into the wrong hands is something they don't really care about. Also news, in Michigan, most voters favor eliminating criminal penalties for marijuana offenses. In New Jersey, the governor signs legislation amending aspects of the state's medical cannabis program. Specifically, the law amends requirements that state licensed medical cannabis producers and distributors be limited to providing patients with no more than 3 strains of the plant, a regulatory rule that has been in place since the program's inception some 3 years ago. Opponents of the rule change argued that lifting the 3-strain cap will foster the production and distribution of varieties of cannabis high in CBD, or cannabidiol, content. Cannabidiol is a non-psychotropic cannabinoid that possesses a variety of therapeutic properties. However, it is typically present only at low levels in conventional strains of marijuana, which typically are bred to possess higher quantities of THC, the primary psychoactive ingredient in cannabis. Senate Bill 2842 also allows for cannabis distributors to produce marijuana-infused edible products. However, at the insistence of the governor, consumption of such products will be limited to those under aged 18. Interesting. The governor previously vetoed language that sought to streamline regulations so that qualified patients under the age of 18 could more readily access medicinal cannabis. Under present New Jersey law, authorized patients may only obtain medical cannabis from state-licensed dispensary. However, to date, few facilities are actively up and running. Earlier this month, the state's Economic Developmental Authority approved a $375,000 loan to the Compassionate Care Foundation Dispensary, which plans to open its doors in mid-October.
Well, hopefully they get.
Annual total of marijuana arrests holds steady in 2012. Police made an estimated 750,000 arrests for violations of marijuana laws in 2012, which represents a decline from the record annual highs reported in the years 2006 and 2010. According to the report, marijuana arrests comprise nearly half, or 48.3%, of the 1.5 million annual illicit drug arrests in the United States. As in past years, the so-called drug war remains fueled by the arrests of minor marijuana possession offenders, said NORML Deputy Director Paul Armentano. Cannabis prohibition financially burdens taxpayers, encroaches upon civil liberties, engenders disrespect for the law, impedes upon legitimate scientific research into the plant's medicinal properties, and disproportionately impacts communities of color. It is time for lawmakers and law enforcement to listen to the voters and stop stigmatizing and criminalizing tens of millions of Americans for choosing to consume a substance that is safer than either tobacco or alcohol.
That's the truth.
Of those charged in 2011 with marijuana law violations, 658,231, or 86%, were arrested for marijuana offenses involving possession only. The remaining 91,593 individuals were charged with sale and or manufacture, a category that includes virtually all cultivation offenses. The arrest totals come at a time when numerous state and national polls indicate that strong majorities of American voters no longer support arresting or criminally prosecuting adults who possess or consume cannabis. By region, the percentage of marijuana arrests was highest in the Midwest and in the South, 52 and 51% respectively, and was lowest in the West, where cannabis violations comprised only 22% of total drug arrests. A report out of the United Kingdom, THC increases brain activity in response to positive stimuli. The administration of THC, the primary psychoactive component in cannabis, modulates emotional processing in healthy volunteers, according to a placebo-controlled crossover trial data published online by the journal European Neuropsychopharmacology. Investigators from the United Kingdom and the Netherlands performed functionally magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, on 11 healthy male subjects. Following the administration of THC or placebo, researchers assessed subjects' brain activity during their exposure to stimuli with a negative, i.e. fearful faces content, or a positive, i.e. happy faces content. They hypothesized that THC administration would reduce subjects' negative bias in emotional processing and shift it towards a positive bias. A bias towards negative stimuli has been linked to diagnoses of certain mental illnesses such as depression. As anticipated, authors reported reduced brain activity after THC administration when subjects process stimuli with a negative emotional content. Conversely, researchers reported increased brain activity following THC administration when subjects process stimuli with a positive emotional content. They concluded, these results indicate that THC administration reduces the negative bias in emotional processing. This adds human evidence to support the hypothesis that the endocannabinoid system is involved in modulation of emotional processing. Our findings also suggest a possible role for the endocannabinoid system in abnormal emotional processing, and may thus be relevant for psychiatric disorders such as major depression. Well, duh. I mean, we already know this from cannabis's positive effects on folks with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. So let's hope that this study will find its way into the minds and hearts of the American professional medical of Oregon and beyond. Also in Oklahoma, a majority of voters endorse marijuana law reform. Feds reaffirm that they will not likely challenge state legalization laws. Also, Louisiana voters endorse legalizing cannabis. Another southern state heard from.
How about this article from the Mercer News?
Sanjay Gupta?
Yeah, about being misled.
And before we get into this one here, another study we want to mention coming out of Sydney, Australia. Cannabis consumption plays little role in global disease burden. So in other words, cannabis doesn't cause
Side effects.
well, it doesn't cause cancer, doesn't cause heart disease, heart attacks, all the things that they say cannabis causes, it doesn't do, and this is reflected globally. That's what that report's talking about. Yes, here, Sanjay Gupta, sorry for misleading public about medical cannabis. One of the nation's most well-known and respected physicians, the neurosurgeon Dr. Sanjay Gupta, apologized repeatedly last month, that would be September, for being part of systematically misleading the American public on the dangers and benefits of medical cannabis. The public apologies were part of both a television interviews and an essay he published in advance of a CNN documentary on medical cannabis that featured reporting from around the world. I mistakenly believed the Drug Enforcement Agency, or DEA, when they listed marijuana as a Schedule I substance because of they said it was for sound scientific proof. They didn't have the science to support that claim, and I now know that when it comes to marijuana, neither of those things are true. It does not have a high potential for abuse, and there are very legitimate medical applications. In fact, sometimes marijuana is the only thing that works. The Americans for Safe Access, or ASA, which is currently appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court the DEA's rejection of the latest rescheduling petition on cannabis, hosted an online event immediately following the airing of the documentary, featuring many of the same guests as the documentary, as well as additional experts in the medical cannabis field. That follow-up discussion expanded on why Dr. Gupta now says that it is irresponsible to deny patients access to medical cannabis. In 2009, Dr. Gupta was a leading candidate to become President Obama's first Surgeon General until he withdrew from consideration. So for more on this story, visit our website, mercycenters.org, and you can follow the links there to see, to go to the YouTube account for Safe Access and see the documentary, Dr. Gupta's interview. You can also see his have a link to his CNN interview, and more, talking about the turnaround of Dr. Sanjay Gupta about medical cannabis. Also in this edition of the Mercy News Report, the American Cannabis Nurses Association supports the monitored and controlled use of cannabis in conjunction with opiate administration for patients, either human or animal, who are suffering from severe pain, intractable pain, severe neuropathy, or pain associated with terminal illness. This is in response to patients being forced to choose between opiates and cannabis for their pain therapy. Most recently, it was reported that the Good Samaritan Hospital in Corvallis was following this policy. There was a protest action. Contact was made with the Good Samaritan representatives, and we are informed that they, in fact, do not have any policy like this. So, if you have, in fact, been denied or hassled over your cannabis use with your opiates, please contact us here at the Mercy Center, 503-363-4588, and let's talk more about your situation. Any patient on long-term opiate therapy should be evaluated for cannabis therapy to lessen the risk of adverse events associated with opiates. This position is justified by the evidence base of use patterns in the in vitro research demonstrating the interaction of endocannabinoid receptors with opiate receptors, the potential severity of adverse events associated with long-term opiate use, and the ethical responsibility of healthcare practitioners to advocate on behalf of their patients. There's a lot more information here about pain and conventional treatments. Pain is a neurological process that provides internal communication via nerve cells, indicating an injury or disease. Pain is a cardinal symptom of many disease processes, especially if it is associated with tissue or organ nerve damage. Also, the analgesic properties of cannabis. Cannabis is effective as an analgesic due to its potent CB1 receptor binding activity in both peripheral and central nervous system nerve pathways. When inhaled, it rapidly crosses the blood-brain barrier. Researchers have demonstrated that cannabinoids reduce hyperalgesia or increase sensitivity to pain through the activation of CB1 receptors at the site of injury. Endocannabinoid receptor activity represents a parallel, separate, but interconnected pain modulation system with the opioid receptor system in the CNS. The foundation of the endocannabinoid system is the activity of CB1 and CB2 receptors, which cause the release or inhibit a complex cascade of endocrine, hormonal, or cellular chemicals from the brain or tissues themselves. Also, clinical considerations with cannabis and opioid co-administration. Any patient suffering from serious pain conditions should be evaluated for cannabis use. Many analgesics are combined with synergistic compounds in order to decrease the total dose of the most powerful one, usually morphine or codeine. and cannabis is no exception. A clinician whose patient is requesting or using cannabis should consider the patient's total pain management program, especially the total dosage of opiates, muscle relaxants, i.e. Flexeril, or benzodiazepines in long-term pain management, and the adverse experiences of any, if any, resulting from the high doses. Documentation of changes in prescription amounts over time after initiating cannabis treatment is easily accomplished. Examination of previous prescription records presents an opportunity to retrospectively determine the therapeutic value of cannabis if the clinician knows when the patient began using it. Patients commonly report a decrease of opiate use from 1/3 to 1/2, as well as an increased functional ability. Some patients eliminate the use of opiates altogether. There is no documented data indicating that concurrent use of opiates and cannabis increases adverse outcomes. Cannabis has been used and as an analgesic for 5,000 years. As restrictive laws give way to sensible regulation, its use as a medicine will increase because patients are unable or unwilling to tolerate potent pharmaceuticals or cannot afford them. All clinicians should be undertaking an education in endocannabinoid therapeutics in order to gain the understanding of this complex system. Clinicians should also understand route-dependent metabolism, federal and state legal barriers, strain evaluation processes, safe handling considerations, research advancements, novel cannabinoid drug development, and dosing options like vaporizers. Endocannabinoid therapeutics represents a subspecialty of medicine. The guidelines of clinical practice require evidence-based practice resting on the principles of science and ethics. Endocannabinoid therapeutics has evolved to the point where it meets these requirements of practice. Also, The Modern World by Art Livermore of American Alliance for Medical Cannabis, or AAMC, from the September 2013 newsletter. 43 years ago, the Controlled Substances Act was passed. The Drug Enforcement Administration was created, and the war on marijuana began. I was in my first year of medical school and had just smoked marijuana for the first time. After getting a biology degree at Reed College, I was curious about cannabis. I searched the medical school library for information about cannabis and found only statements that it was a drug of abuse. What does that mean? It doesn't tell you anything about what it does. What are the effects of marijuana? We now know that marijuana has many uses. A recent report from the Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research in California has proven that smoked marijuana is effective in treating chronic nerve pain and muscle spasms in patients who are not adequately treated by other medicines. This government-supported research confirms the results of previous studies. Those who scoff at the medical effectiveness of cannabis don't have a leg to stand on. Our federal laws must change to accept reality. Marijuana is an effective medicine. Political resistance to removing criminal sanctions from the use of marijuana will not be tolerated. Discrimination against people who possess marijuana is ending. Discrimination against people who grow marijuana is ending. Discrimination against people who like marijuana is ending. But how do we get the change that we must have to complete this journey? It is not enough to say that the state should be free to regulate medical marijuana. Federal law must change. The Medical Marijuana Patient Protection Act must be passed. You can help by sending letters, emails, faxes, and calling your senators and representatives. Tell them that you are upset by the actions of the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. Tell them that it's not okay to arrest people who are legally growing and distributing medical marijuana. With the addition of New Hampshire and Illinois this year, we now have medical marijuana laws in 20 states and the District of Columbia. This year, Oregon is writing the rules which will allow people to buy medical marijuana at licensed dispensaries. We will be able to help people by identifying the cannabinoids in various strains of cannabis. The natural cannabinoid, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabivarin, or delta-9 THCV, decreases seizure activity in a rat model of epilepsy. Which variety of marijuana has the highest THCV level? Cannabidiol, CBD, has antipsychotic properties. Which strain is the best source of CBD? Right now, there is no way to find out except by trial and error. With licensed dispensaries, we will be able to have each strain tested. Patients will be able to buy marijuana that they know will work for their condition. Young people today are discovering that marijuana is good medicine for psychological problems. Soldiers returning from Iraq and Afghanistan find that cannabis relieves the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Many people find that it helps them to deal with their anger. Marijuana improves cognitive ability in patients with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. It helps people with obsessive compulsive disorder to forget and to laugh at their own obsessions and compulsions. Marijuana treats the anxiety, lack of attention, and impulsivity associated with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, and it works better than any other medicine for many autistic children as well as adults. Washington and Colorado have legalized marijuana for all adults. This change allows people to use marijuana in social situations as an alternative to alcohol. People who have problems with alcohol will be able to deal with social anxiety by using marijuana instead of alcohol. Arresting people for marijuana makes no sense, but we arrested more than 800,000 people for marijuana in 2008, and every year we are arresting more people than the year before. Legal marijuana will allow law enforcement to spend their time and resources on violent behavior. Marijuana is known for its ability to calm agitated people. Alcohol is known for the violent behavior that excessive use can cause. Marijuana is an attitude adjustment. It stimulates creative thinking, and in addition to its physical effects, marijuana helps people psychologically and enables people to feel a sense of well-being. So, much of what we are told about marijuana is based on false assumptions. A new federal research project is looking for a negative effect of THC in mice. Recently, the NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, stated that they were not interested in funding research intended to find positive effects of marijuana. Since the NIDA controls all marijuana research in the U.S., we must rely on scientists in other countries to look for the benefits of marijuana. Our tax dollars are being spent on moralizing under the guise of medical research. We cannot afford the financial and social cost of marijuana prohibition. We can limit the recreational use of marijuana by minors, but our current policy makes it easier for minors to get marijuana than to get alcohol or cigarettes. An ineffective policy does not deserve to survive. Our marijuana policy has not reduced teen marijuana use, it has increased it. We cannot continue to pretend that good intentions are all that matters. The cannabis plant has many valuable uses. It makes no sense to ignore the benefits of cannabis, hemp, marijuana in the modern world. For more information, contact Art Livermore at the American Alliance for Medical Cannabis at 44500 Tide Avenue, Arch Cape, Oregon 97102, or visit www.letfreedomgrow.com. Well, thanks, folks, for attending and tuning in. That's about all we have time for tonight. Unless we get any more questions, comments, or curses from our peanut gallery, we'll wrap this one up and send it back to you folks there in TV land and video land, respectively. But we do want to say thanks for stopping by and remind you that this is the Mercy Weekly Meeting. It happens every Wednesday here at 1745 Capitol Street Northeast. Goes on from 7 o'clock till as long as everyone can stand to do it, I guess. No later than 9 o'clock, though. We definitely wrap it up by then. Even if all the house is packing and everyone's rocking. But tonight, we're going to close it up, say see you later, and remind folks out there about our sponsor for this and a lot of our stuff on here on CCTV. So kudos to Graber Insurance for supporting Mercy Center here and abroad. If you need home, auto, life, business, or health insurance, contact Graber Insurance. Visit their website, graberinsurers.com. Thanks for tuning in. That's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks, PK, for behind the camera there, getting the show for us. Thanks for the crew at CCTV, checking the equipment out, wrapping it up, and helping us get it up to YouTube and various other places. Don't forget to tell your friends, tell your enemies, and remember to visit mercycenters.org. Click on the Mercy-TV tab to see our schedule. Catch our show Friday nights at 7 o'clock on Channel 23. Also, My Garden is up there, but at our mercycenters.org/TV website, you can see, you can find links to all our past shows. We have a bunch up there on live stream, and we have a number out on YouTube. And so, that's it for tonight. Thanks a lot.
Register, vote when it comes.
Hey, yeah. Voting this year is going to be Tuesday, November 5th. So make sure you get out there, get your vote in, and prepare for the next cycle. 2014, we're going to possibly have legalization on the ballot, but we'll certainly have a chance to de-elect all the prohibitionists, be they legislators, judges, DAs, what have you. Thanks, and remember, register, vote, get everybody you know to do so also. We'll see you next time on Mercy TV.
Thank you. You want to say anything before I turn it off, Glenn?
Yes, good night.
Good night. God bless you all, every single one of you.